Futility by Werewolves, read by Deathlight. Chapter 1, A Dead Pony's Hope. Twilight Log 50, Day 5 since the last oasis. There was a time I firmly believed in a future. Surely everything would be okay in the future. Surely something would come and save me from the bleak now. But nothing ever came, and as I grew older, I came to realize that such things never existed in this world. Sometimes I like to imagine a world unlike my own. A world filled with many ponies of all different sizes and colors. Not only ponies without horns on their heads, but ones with wings. In addition, sometimes there'd be a rare case of ponies with wings and horns. In that world, I'm a master of my element, magic. I would be a little antisocial, but in reality, I was secretly lonely. It wouldn't be until I moved to a town called Ponyville where the other elements would be introduced. My loneliness would abate. We would have fun under the guise of certain lessons, all common sense to me. It was fun for a time. However, after allowing myself to be ascended to princesshood, and gaining a set of wings, I found myself fulfilled for this part of the story. Twilight Sparkle had finished her friendship lessons, and she will live a long and happy life. All this was finished today as I walked, and now I must find a new fantasy, lest I fall to melancholy. I am almost out of water. If I do not find another oasis in this accursed land soon, I will likely have to resort to that spell. I do not like using it, because I always have strange dreams after, but it may be my only choice. How I long for a companion. How I wish I had a Pinkie Pie, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Applejack, or Spike. But it's just hopeful thinking. I am forever alone. I found a skeleton today that had been half crushed under one of the spikes that had fallen on Promise Day. It has some bags, and a water bottle still in good enough condition to be used. I also found a journal, which I plan to read. I've set up camp beside the spike. It provides a good solid wall to construct a lean-to against. I will read some of the journal, and maybe find out who this pony was. But the one thing that struck me as strange was that he didn't have a horn, like I do. Which means my theory is correct. There's more than just my type on this planet, or there had been. I've had to create a brand new journal, mobile and having been lost to the sands of time. In case I do not survive this journey, it is probably a good idea to explain my past while I still have a chance. If you are reading this, I probably have perished. Then again, it is so hard to survive in this world now. Water is fading. I have one last bottle left. Once that is gone, I will have, at best, one day to reach the oasis. And that's risking heat exhaust. I guess it would be best to start with how it all came to be. However, I do not know much except for what my mother had told me, passed down through the generations. There is one thing I know for certain. One fact that keeps me firmly planted in reality for when the promised day happens again. And that is this: life is dying. Once, this world was not a death trap. It was filled with trees, animals, water. However, as my race grew stronger, they began to notice one shocking revelation. The planet was dying. Apparently they set up temples with old information, histories, a time capsule basically. After that was done, they began to prepare to prevent it from continuing further, but failed. Now, every so often, we are forced to survive an event caused by their act, now called Promise Day. I did not understand much, apart from what my own magic had told me, but I'll do my best to explain what it is. Every day, the spell they cast drains the power from the very earth, accelerating the death of life. When that power reaches a certain point, all around the world, these spikes begin to form wherever life still exists, and tries to eradicate it. The last Promise Day took my mother. I must rest. She spoke to herself, closing the book she had been writing in. Gazing to the sky, she wondered what the night was. She closed her eyes and blotted out the sun. Hidden in the shadow of the spires, she was safe from the harsh rays. Beside her was a skeleton, and above her was a tattered piece of fabric. Closing her eyes, she breathed a sigh and waited for sleep to come. When she could dream of the night, of friends, of her mother. Falling asleep and waking up later, no time had seemed to pass. If you trusted the sun to show such things. On her internal clock, however, she had slept for a full 12 hours. Standing up, she shook herself and packed up her tarp. Giving one last look to the body, she bowed her head and silently gave respects before turning away. Footsteps in the sand, for wind would not blow anymore, clearly showing the path this pony had been traveling in. Looking in the final pages of his journal, it seemed he had been heading for someplace important. He also had a key, and she quickly searched around before finding it on the ground near his hoof. It was a small, circular coin with a faded symbol on it. Pocketing it, she then turned and began heading in the direction he had been heading, diverging from her path to nowhere. The landscape hadn't changed in the time she had slept. Sometimes she would cross faded prints of hooves. Sometimes places where spikes had hit very long ago. The sand was everywhere, the sun unrelenting. There wasn't a single cloud, not a single blade of grass. The world was dead, she believed it to be so. The last promised day had been long ago. So faded she could barely remember her own mother's face. One day, she wouldn't be able to fight fate any longer. And when that day came, she would finally die. As far as she knew, she was the only one alive anymore. All she found were skeletons. However, this diary spoke of hope. She would need to read more. Lucky for her, she had a long day of walking ahead to read it. And she is well used to walking in the sand by now. Hope? She doubted it was true. But she couldn't resist letting a flutter of emotion ignite her heart. This book, she must read it and find out if this hope was just folly. Enough putting it off, just read the damn thing. She scorned herself. Hello everyone, I'll remind you I do have a Patreon one-time donations. And, yes, it's a new story. It's gonna be just a little 5-parter I got going. And, I guess that's really it. I'm gonna be going home after this for the weekend to hopefully record my, my Christmas stuff. As you can tell, my voice is better, but it still is a little bit rough. But, yeah, hopefully I can now go through that. And I will see you next time. Bye.